This document frightens me the most. This is where our dialysis team went to Europe, the European Dialysis Treatment Association, and they were talking about how many people they infected with Hep C. Every country reported: France, between 40 and 30%, Sweden. Then, in the UK, 7 to 3%. Now, what terrified me about this document is that when it comes down to here, indeed, the prevalence was 29%. What that means is only a quarter or so of our dialysis units even bothered to check. 29% published. You see where it says, and published except in one country? You can guess which country didn't bother to tell its patients. The European Dialysis Treatment Association was in a state of shock. If you read this report, they just cannot believe that we're just not going to tell anyone. Everywhere else did 100% testing. They just not publish it, so what? And they only checked 29%. And that is really where England decided it doesn't matter. They're winging it. Every other country in the world would have got out in the streets, tested 10,000 people, and worked out how bad it was out there. What our government did was it created a guess instead. 14,000 people might have been infected from 92 to 82. You can guarantee a naught on that figure. Why would any human being lie so bad when lives are at stake? Sensible countries do what they did in Canada. They spend 15 million and they go from 1960 to 1995 and they study where the blood comes from and where it went. This, in 1972, Canada began antigen testing and it lost about 10% of infected blood. Then, 81, they began to outs test the blood. If you've got high outs, it means your liver's inflamed. Now, the vast amount of blood banks around the world realise that, hey, the inflamed blood is the Hep C blood, and they started getting rid of it. And you could save about 30 to 40% of infections by screening out all your high outs blood. And as you can see, all this went on to about here. And this is ELISA 1. Right down to there, and ELISA 2. This is a health protection agency document, for heaven's sakes. They're only allowed to start from 1991. But if you go back, you're not looking at 100 infections, you're looking at 25,000 a year. The British justice system said they were culpable from 1990. And that's why to them the Hep C only exists up until 1990. Now, I've worked with Penny Chant. She did all this 15 years ago for Canada, and she's also got Bruce Remus. These are the people that gave us the 170 million worldwide statistic for the UN. These are the people that worked out hepatitis C in America, how many, Canada, how many, and then they gave the modelling studies to South America and Asia. Her first reaction to the figure 14,000 was smile, although 14,000 does seem a rather ludicrous number. And that's where we put another naught on that figure. When I recommended to Lord Archer that he meets these people, or at least reads their prevalence in for the UK, I have never had a reply. $50,000 to 100,000 transfusion survivors, and about 30,000 to about 70,000 blood product dialysis, transplant, other types of survivors. So about 100,000 overlooked. They're saying 0.5% are infected, but what I'm saying is we're looking at the 0.9%. Now the way these figures break down, IDU, injecting drug use, NHS, overseas health, and prisons. One of the first things you see is that 3/4 of a Hep C epidemic is institutional. There's a ceiling on injector infections. We have 600,000 people in England who may have used drugs, 200,000 who may be addicted. A third of them could be infected. Top whack, 200,000 injector infections. So we're looking at 300,000 from somewhere else. These are healthcare. These are the figures as we've worked them out. So we don't have 14,000, there were about 300,000 surviving infections. Half from overseas and half from here. As you can see, these are your annual infections from blood. And everybody's in there, dialysis products, transplants, C-sections. The one person who needs to work through that is Aaron Foster. He's done the prevalencing study for injecting drug users, and we want to add to that healthcare. The GP's all got the number of injecting drug users they might have on their books. They've never had a prevalence for healthcare victims, so they don't know there's any. 10 to 12 million people in England have used overseas healthcare. The global prevalence is 3%, so they all need testing. Dr. Foster has been in the Asian community, and Dr. Chan has also been with the Chinese. Both of them have found that their national prevalence of Hep C is the same here. Nigeria, Hep C prevalence over 10%. We have a lot of Nigerians walking in. We don't have a know your risk, get tested poster. We don't have a test kit. Professor Williams, all parliamentary comms, he came up with this, allowing asylum seekers to enter Britain without any medical screening. The NHS could save millions if it screened them all for the range of conditions they failed to disclose. Now, we, as a nation, are failing to disclose hepatitis C and how you get it. We're left in the third world, we're from the first world. We spend 100 billion on healthcare, they spend nothing. We have to tell them. We have to test them.